Have you ever been caught in that really frustrating space where your body is just completely wiped out, screaming for sleep, but your mind,
Still going a mile a minute.
exactly, it's wide awake, thoughts just racing like crazy in the dark. You're lying there, maybe staring at the ceiling, watching the clock. Minutes feel like hours.
Oh, yeah. 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Suddenly it's like 3.17 and you haven't moved.
Hmm.
Just stuck between being exhausted and, well, not sleeping.
It's such a common thing, right? That feeling where the harder you try, the more awake you feel. You start thinking, what am I doing wrong? Or maybe this is just how it is now.
That's a big one. Is this just part of getting older? Do you just have to accept that your sleep won't be as good?
Right. And that idea is something the source material we're diving into today really pushes back against.
It does. We're looking at a text that's presented as The Elder's Way, and it's titled, Six Foods to Sleep Like Never Before, How to Eat Them. It's part of something called Wisdom Docus.
And it offers what it calls, simple natural solutions, things found in everyday food.
It really taps into that desire for help that feels accessible, especially when you're struggling with sleep night after night. It kind of poses the question, could the answer actually be in your kitchen?
It almost sounds too simple, doesn't it? Just food. But the source seems pretty confident that common items, if you eat them the right way at the right time, can make a real difference.
Yeah, and it even mentions within the text itself, asking people to subscribe and comment, sort of highlighting this idea of uncovering natural wisdom together. We're just reporting on what the source says there.
So it frames these foods as giving your body specific signals, or maybe the building blocks it needs to get back to proper restful sleep.
That seems to be the core idea. So our mission here is to unpack what this source actually claims about these six specific foods. Can they really, transform your sleep like the title suggests?
Right. We'll look at why the source thinks they work, how it suggests using them, and what makes them special according to the text. And definitely stick around because the source promises a pretty interesting detail about the timing for one food in particular. Apparently, it's something lots of people get wrong.
Okay, so let's dig in. How does the source set this all up?
Yeah.
It starts by acknowledging that frustration,
Yeah.
like the sleeplessness, especially for older adults.
Yes, but then it goes right after that belief we mentioned that poor sleep is just inevitable as you age.
Calls it a false belief, actually.
Right. It argues that with the right nutrition, you can sort of reclaim that deep sleep you feel like you've lost. The source suggests your body hasn't forgotten how to sleep. It just needs the right kind of support.
And the support it focuses on isn't some complicated routine. It's just food. Everyday stuff. The idea is that small, deliberate choices in the evening can gently nudge your body toward rest.
Which makes sense why people might be drawn to it, looking for options beyond medication.
Exactly. So if the answer is in the kitchen, what's first on the list according to this source?
It starts with something pretty straightforward. Cherries.
But specifically, tart cherries.
Mm.
That's the key distinction the source makes.
Why tart cherries?
Well, the text says they naturally contain melatonin.
Ah, melatonin, the hormone our bodies make to regulate that sleep-wake cycle. The source notes that, natural production can dip as we get older.
Mm-hmm. So it points to things like tart cherries as a way to maybe supplement that naturally. It even shares a little story about a man named Harold, 72.
Harold, what was his story?
Apparently, he had really restless nights, started drinking a bit of tart cherry juice before bed, and according to the source, within about 2 weeks, his sleep got deeper, less restless.
Interesting. So what's the recommendation from the source?
Pretty simple. About half a cup of the juice or just a small handful of the cherries themselves, fresh or dried, maybe 1 to 2 hours before you want to sleep.
What about the sugar? People worry about sugar before bed.
The source actually addresses that. It says the focus here isn't sugar for energy, it's the melatonin content and the timing. It's presented as a gentle, natural boost for your sleep cycle.
Okay, tart cherries. Got it. What's next?
Moving on to another fruit, one you might not immediately connect with sleep, bananas.
Bananas. Yeah, I think of those for energy, like potassium for workouts.
Right, but this source looks at them differently. It highlights the magnesium and the potassium.
And how do they supposedly help with sleep?
Well, the source links these minerals to relaxation. It describes magnesium as having this calming effect on the nervous system, helping to quiet your mind, maybe, and potassium for relaxing muscles. Put them together, the source suggests, and you get a state that's more conducive to sleep.
Okay. Any examples in the text?
Yeah, it talks about Gloria, 78. She kept waking up around 2 a.m. Apparently, her doctor mentioned low magnesium might be a factor. So she tried eating one ripe banana about an hour before bed.
Did it help, according to the source?
The text claims that, yeah, over several weeks, those middle-of-the-night wake-ups lessened. She felt more peaceful.
So the recommendation is just one banana.
One ripe banana about an hour before bed. That's the suggestion. It also throws in a tip. Maybe pair it with a little almond butter.
Oh, why almond butter?
For a bit more staying power, apparently, to help avoid waking up hungry at like 3 a.m.
Makes sense. And again, the source is careful to say this isn't like eating a sugary dessert, right? It's about the minerals.
Exactly. Natural sugars with fiber focused on that calming mineral content.
Okay, bananas. Now, you mentioned one food had a surprising timing element.
Yes, this next one, almonds. This is where the source really emphasizes timing as being crucial, something it claims many people miss.
Almonds. Okay, what's the thinking there?
Well, like bananas, they're rich in magnesium, according to the source. But they also contain tryptophan.
Ah, tryptophan. The amino acid famous from turkey, right?
Yeah, that's the one. The source explains how the body uses tryptophan to make serotonin, that kind of calming chemical, and then serotonin gets converted into melatonin.
So almonds offer like a double whammy, magnesium for relaxation, plus the stuff your body needs to make serotonin and melatonin.
That's the idea presented in the text. It offers an anecdote about Sam, an 81-year-old retired teacher.
What about Sam?
He apparently struggled with restless legs at night. Tried different things, nothing worked. His daughter, a nutritionist according to the source, suggested a small handful of almonds before bed.
And the source claims it worked.
It says after about a week, Sam's restless legs calmed down and he started sleeping soundly, much to his surprise.
So the source uses that to suggest almonds might help both physically with the muscles and chemically with the serotonin and melatonin pathways.
Exactly. But here's the key part. The source really hammers home. The timing.
Right. You said people get it wrong.
The source argues that lots of people eat almonds in the morning, for energy or protein, and that's fine. But to get the sleep benefits, the source insists you need to eat them in the evening.
How many and when?
A modest handful, the text suggests around 8 to 10 almonds, about an hour before you plan to sleep. This specific timing is presented as potentially transformative for sleep, a detail the source thinks is often overlooked.
8 to 10, an hour before bed. Got it. Any other tips for almonds?
Yes, a practical warning. Avoid the salted ones.
Why is that?
The source says the salt can cause subtle dehydration. That might make you wake up thirsty or needing the bathroom later, interrupting your sleep. So it recommends raw or lightly roasted unsalted almonds.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's focus on the details. Tart cherries, not just any. Unsalted almonds, timed correctly, it shows the source's specific approach.
Definitely. So we've covered cherries for melatonin, bananas for magnesium and potassium, and almonds for magnesium and tryptophan, with that crucial timing element.
Right, all about providing natural compounds. But there are 3 more foods on the list in this source text.
There are. Next up is oatmeal.
Oatmeal, another breakfast food.
I know. But the source suggests a small bowl in the evening can be surprisingly effective.
How so?
It frames it not as a big meal, obviously, but as a gentle, warm snack before bed. The key, according to the source, is that oats are complex carbohydrates.
Okay, slow digesting.
Exactly. As they digest slowly, they cause a gradual rise in blood sugar. The source claims this signals the brain to release serotonin.
Serotonin again, the calming one.
Right, and the source adds another layer. If you pair the oatmeal with something rich in calcium, like almond milk or dairy milk, that serotonin is apparently converted more easily into melatonin.
Huh. So it's like a natural chain reaction towards sleep.
That's how the source presents it. Simple, natural. He shares a story about Margaret, 75, whose mind would race at bedtime.
And oatmeal helped her.
The text says she found having a small bowl with cinnamon, maybe some fruit slices in the evening, helped calm her racing thoughts and relax her body.
So the recommendation is important here.
No.
Small portion, right? Not breakfast size.
Definitely. Small portion, evening time. Use almond or dairy milk for that calcium boost. Maybe add cinnamon for blood sugar stability, as the source suggests. It even recommends adding tart cherries or banana slices.
Ah, creating like a triple dose by combining the foods.
Is linking back to the others.
Yeah.
It's presented as this warm, comforting signal to your body to wind down.
Okay, oatmeal. Interesting. What comes after carbs?
Something more savory.
Turkey.
Turkey. Okay, now we're definitely talking tryptophan. The source must mention the Thanksgiving turkey coma.
It does right away. It says that sleepy feeling isn't just a myth, and it points directly to turkey's high levels of tryptophan.
The same amino acid we talked about with almonds.
Exactly. The body uses it to build serotonin, then melatonin. So the source's argument is that even a small amount of turkey before bed gives your body a good supply of this key ingredient. But not a huge meal, right? That would probably mess up sleep.
Oh, for sure. The source is clear about that. It recommends just a few slices of lean roasted turkey breast. And timing matters here, too.
When should you eat it, according to the source?
Ideally, 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. This gives your body time to digest the protein properly and start that tryptophan conversion process.
And how should you eat it? Just plain slices?
Simple preparations are best, the source suggests. Cold slices, maybe in a light wrap. Avoid heavy sauces or sides. The text also mentions turkey is generally gentle on the stomach and good for maintaining muscle mass, framing it as beneficial overall.
Okay, so turkey, few hours before bed, makes sense. What's the last food on the list?
For the sixth one, especially if maybe you don't like eating closer to bedtime, the source suggests a classic calming drink, chamomile tea.
Ah, chamomile. A standard for relaxation. Does the source add anything new?
It emphasizes that its reputation is well-deserved and points to a specific compound. Apigenin, A-P-I-G-E-N-I-N.
Imaginein. What does that do, according to the text?
The source claims it binds to certain receptors in your brain, helping to reduce anxiety and promote a feeling of calm, of tranquility. It's described as sending a gentle slow-down signal through your nervous system.
Like flipping an internal switch from on to winding down.
Kind of, yeah. The source includes a nice image of Elaine, 83, and her evening ritual.
That's a ritual.
Brewing a cup of chamomile, holding the warm mug, sitting quietly, no screens, just watching the sunset. The source says this simple, consistent ritual helps her mind unwind each night.
So it's not just the tea itself, but the whole process.
The source really stresses that. Yes, drink one warm cup, maybe 30 to 60 minutes before bed. But how you drink it matters. Finding that quiet space, focusing on the warmth, sipping slowly, that mindfulness is part of the effect.
And does the source say chamomile is unique?
It does mention that chamomile, specifically because of apigenin, has been studied for its mild sedative effects and notes it might be particularly relevant for older adults looking for natural sleep aids. It also suggests adding a little honey or almond milk if you like.
Okay, so that rounds out the 6. Tart cherries, bananas, almonds, oatmeal, turkey, and chamomile tea. We've covered the source's reasoning, melatonin, magnesium, potassium, tryptophan, serotonin, complex carbs, apigenin, all presented as being naturally present in these foods.
Right. And the source is careful to position these not as magic bullets, but as gentle, natural tools, things that work with your body's own processes. And it keeps coming back to why this matters for you, the listener.
Yeah, it makes a strong case that sleep isn't just about feeling tired or not. It connects poor sleep to affecting your presence, your mental clarity, even physical strength and confidence, especially as we age.
It paints that picture, but then pivots to empowerment. The core message seems to be, you're not stuck. By giving your body these kinds of building blocks or signals through food, the source argues you can help it find its way back to natural sleep rhythms. Consistency is key, it suggests.
And like we mentioned earlier, the source actively encourages trying things out. Pick one small change, see what happens. That experimental approach.
Exactly. Which ties into its call for comments, sharing experiences, presenting this knowledge as something communal, something to be explored together. Again, just reporting on what the source itself includes.
So that's our deep dive into the claims made in The Elder's Way about these 6 foods for sleep. We've got tart cherries, bananas, almonds, remember the timing, oatmeal, turkey, and chamomile tea.
All presented as accessible, natural options. The source's final thought is quite hopeful, suggesting deep sleep is still achievable, and that nourishing your body this way is, in itself, an act of self-love or self-care.
It really does make you look at your kitchen differently, doesn't it? Maybe the solution isn't some complicated thing, but something simple, already there.
It really does. And thinking about how this source connects something as basic as food to something as vital as sleep, well, it sparks further thought, doesn't it?
How?
It leads to a broader question, building on the source's perspective. Here's something maybe to think about. Given how interconnected everything in our body seems to be, what other simple, everyday choices might be quietly influencing our health and well-being in ways we haven't even realized yet?
That's a really interesting thought to leave with. And the source material definitely seems to encourage that kind of personal reflection and even experimentation. If exploring these ideas from the source about food and sleep resonated with you, maybe consider what stood out, or perhaps if you've tried any of these things yourself. Engaging with the ideas presented is all part of the conversation surrounding this deep dive.